Welcome to Tulsa City County Library's Tools for Building Business series. I'm Martha Gregory with Tulsa City County Library's Research Center, and a big welcome to all of you. Before we get started, I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping items. First of all, this event is being recorded, as will all the remaining 4 programs in this series. All 5 session recordings will be available for you to access on the library's YouTube channel. Complete details for all 5 sessions are on the library's Facebook page. All the participants except the speakers are in listen-only mode. We will use Zoom's Q&A feature for asking questions and getting answers. So I encourage you to please submit your questions as you think of them. And to do so, just click on the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom screen. And our guest speaker will answer questions intermittently throughout the presentation. So even though you're muted, we can't hear you, you can send in your questions at any time. Everyone who registered for this event and or the series, doesn't matter which you register for, you will get a link to each event, each of the 5 events a day or 2 prior to that event. So we just want you to know that no matter if you want to select one or all, you can pick and choose as you like, and you'll be able to get in at the last moment for whatever you need. The library is a treasure trove of amazing resources for our business community, and we're really excited to be able to showcase this one for you. We've been working with the business community for years, and we've always been able to sit down with folks and work with them face to face. So this is, we're moving now into this virtual mode, so this is kind of a new experience for us, but we look forward to doing a lot more of them in this convenient way. This event and the next 4 programs scheduled through September 9 will open your eyes and your minds to some of the most useful research tools that are available for business. Reference USA, like most of our databases, is on the library's website. It's available 24/7 from any place, anytime, and it's free to library card holders. If you want to get a card, just visit our website at www.tulsalibrary.org. If you don't remember the address, you can just Google Tulsa Library and bingo, you'll find it, where you can order a card online. You only have to work in, be a student in, or live in Tulsa County to qualify for a card. And I think they're good for 30 years, so you don't have to worry too soon about it expiring. Reference USA is a heavyweight system. Its group of databases has something for everyone. With it, you will learn how to find new customers, you will learn about your competitors, you'll be able to discover the lifestyle dynamics of any neighborhood in the US, and so much more. The list of can-dos for Reference USA is absolutely endless. We're very pleased to have with us Bill Carlson from Info Group in Omaha, Nebraska, to showcase the Reference USA system. This first event is going to be sort of an overview of all the different databases that they have and the secrets to unlocking all the information that's inside of them. Bill has been with Info Group since 2008, and during those years, he's worked with public libraries all over the country, teaching them how to use the Reference USA system. Bill will now start us on our journey. Here we go.
Here we go, absolutely. Thank you everyone for joining. Just one moment while I share my screen. You should be seeing my screen now. The Reference USA tool is produced by Info Group, which is my parent company. We're out of Omaha, Nebraska. So certainly thank you for joining us today. It's been probably 6 or 7 months. I was last in Tulsa, and we had a great turnout there. So I'm excited that we have some more folks joining us today. This is technically going to be the longest of all the sessions. It's about an hour and a half, and I'll give you a very thorough overview of how you can use the database, some of the various tools that are available in the database, and even some use cases of how to use the information that you can find in the database. So let me start off with just a few housekeeping items. Our Reference USA logo up here in the upper left-hand corner, that is in fact the home key. So if you were in one of the modules and wanted to switch to a different one, you can select the home key and it'll bring you right back here. You'll see the beautiful logo here for the Tulsa City County Library, and you'll know that you're back on that home page. I do also like to point out that under the About Us, we have a 3.5-minute video that walks you through how we verify our business data. So that can be a great resource if you would like to certainly watch that. We also have under the Contact Us, and of course you know that you can always reach out to the library for assistance. If you would like, though, we do include our 800 number as well as a generic email address that you can certainly send through questions to. And I also like to always point out our Learning Center. We do webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a video library out there with a number of videos. Some of them are as short as 2 to 3 minutes in length, walking you through how to use certain tools. Others are 30 and 60 minutes in length. And then we have some terrific training guides as well. If it would benefit you to have the information in writing, that's available in those training guides, and you could have it up on another tab or you could print it off. I also like to make folks aware we do have a mobile app, so you could certainly go to the appropriate store and download that mobile app. There's no charge for it. Once you've done so and go to launch it for the first time, it's going to ask you to put in your zip code, and then it will identify the libraries in your area. You would simply click on the one that is obviously in this case for the Tulsa City County Library, and then it'll ask you to put in your library card number and you'll be ready to go. And with that particular tool, we have 2 of the modules available in there, our U.S. business database information and the U.S. consumer and lifestyles information. So know that that is there for you if you would like to use that. And then we also, and a lot of times maybe folks don't necessarily scroll all the way down, so they may not see that we offer you the ability to create a personal account. Once you've registered, you can log in and you can save your searches. You are certainly able to download information that you would like, but in some cases, and that's really why we developed that particular tool, is because we were being told by our libraries that patrons didn't necessarily always want to download, but they did want to be able to come back to searches. So that allows you to save that search, come back at any time that is necessary for you. It'll always be there. We actually save the steps that you use to build the search, not the actual records themselves. And when I say that, I like to introduce our schedule for updating these various modules because it's not the same across the board. So our U.S. business information, and this is certainly the module that gets the most attention, that information is being updated weekly. So as we make our verification phone calls, we'll push any of that new data that we get live on Thursday and Friday morning. So that's being done weekly, whereas our historical business information technically is being done at the beginning of the next year. Our Canadian business information, that's monthly. Our jobs and internships, This is nightly. So we get a feed every night from Indeed.com, and then we look to match that job opening or that internship up with one of the business records that corresponds with that company that's offering that job or that internship, so that the end user gets not only this excellent information through Indeed, but they're also learning about the company, or can learn about the company that's offering that job opening. Great way to look at that. And you cannot get this information by going straight to Indeed. So certainly a terrific tool for those folks that are job seeking. Our U.S. new businesses, those are filings that we're getting through the Secretary of State's office. We get that information weekly and push it live in this holding place, because as you'll see, and I'll show you what this contains, it's not nearly as robust of information as compared to the U.S. business module, simply because it's not been verified by us. We might have the name of that company, what type of business, line of business they might be in, maybe even how many employees they might have. And certainly, are they a retail location? Are they a commercial location? That type of information, but that's about it. So not nearly as robust, but it is a great place to get a look at those new businesses that are going to be opening up in your community. Then we have our U.S. healthcare, and I'd like to point out, I can certainly get information about doctors in the U.S. business database as it relates to their address and the line of business that they're in and how many employees they may have. In the U.S. healthcare, which is updated monthly, this information provides me with insight about the doctor. Where did they graduate from school? Where are they licensed at? Do they accept Medicaid and Medicare? What kind of insurance programs might they accept? That type of information. So certainly this information is being pushed out monthly as we get that about these doctors and physicians. We have, of course, the U.S. standard white pages, the U.S. consumer lifestyles, and the Canadian white pages. Those are all being updated monthly. And then our U.S. new movers and new homeowners, we are fully licensed to bump our database up against the national change of address. So that's how we're getting this information. We're updating that weekly. So we bump up against that database every week and pull in any of that new move information about people and make that available in there. This can be a tremendous tool if in fact your business plan requires you to find new consumers that could be potentially new customers for you. This is a great tool to use. So without further ado, I'm going to open the U.S. business database. Know that the searching that I'll do in here and in some of the other modules, the tools are for the most part across the board. There are a few differences, but it will allow you, if you understand how to search one of the modules, you can search all of them, because it's just different criteria that you're using, but the processes are all the same. So let me launch the U.S. U.S. business database. Whenever I come into any module, I'm always going to be brought to this quick search screen first. You know, there are certainly plenty of cases where people want to look up just one company. Maybe they're looking up that company because they've heard that that business has employment opportunities and they want to take a look and see what those might be. Maybe they're looking at a company because they want to reach out to them about perhaps doing some business with them. Certainly you could look up a company for that reason. I've had patrons that have used the database or looking up the company name because they have something that they want to share with that company. Maybe there was some type of issue and they want to reach out to them and make them aware of that issue. So certainly lots of different reasons to use it. One that I also find is when I get a call, and we take calls Monday through Friday, our hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And when I'm talking to a patron and they're talking about wanting to create a list of businesses that they could potentially do business with, and I'll ask them, do you have a really good customer in a specific type of business? Well, yes, I do. Great. Tell me about that type of business. What specifically does that really good customer do? And oftentimes they'll say, well, I'm not that specific or that certain what they might do. So we'll look up that company name. And the reason I do that is all of our records have what are called SIC codes. That's the Standard Industrial Classification Code. So we categorize businesses by type, and that code is what we use to do that categorization. So we'll look up that really good customer and identify that code, and then use that in our advanced search process, which I'll show you momentarily, in order to find more customers like that really good one that they already have. So certainly another reason, maybe you used to work with an executive and you're not certain where they've gotten off to, but they're no longer with that particular company anymore. You could try and do a name search for them. It'd be great if you had the city and state that they were in, by the way. Speaking of city and state, I can look at all businesses in any given city or state, or even do a reverse phone number lookup. And I do like to show this example, and we'll just do your city here. We'll just say Tulsa, and I'll select that. Then, of course, go to the state. And there's my Oklahoma. And then view my results. I want to show you a tool that might be useful for you. And I want to show it to you in a couple of different ways. We're going to look at your entire community and how many verified records we have across Tulsa, which are some 30,000 businesses that are verified. So those could be retail locations, those could be government offices, those could be churches, those could be home offices or at-home businesses. So all of those are included in this total. I want to show you this one tool, and that's our charts tool. What it will do, I mentioned the fact that we categorize businesses by type of SIC code. This will give me the top 7 SIC codes across your community. You might be surprised with what we find here. So of those 30,000, the top 7 are made up of this 7,300 plus here. Physicians and surgeons come in the top spot at 3,200 plus records. And that's because they're all 1099 guys and gals. So they often, in many communities, are in that top spot simply because of the nature of that business. They are their own business. Followed by, in this case, attorneys, then restaurants, then nurse practitioners, insurance, churches, and dentists. Now, if we were looking at Omaha, in the 7th and final place would be the automated teller machines. So we also have records for ATMs. And I'll show you how you can omit any kind of information that you didn't ultimately want to see in your output. So it gives you this information. I also like to show the number of employees, especially in today's world with the current effects of the COVID-19. We can't help but turn on the news and see information about businesses being impacted. This gives it a breakdown by those employment ranges, by the size information. So it starts off with that first size range of 1 to 4, and 60% of the businesses across Tulsa employ 1 to 4 employees. Now we know that some of this number are in fact those physicians and surgeons, but we can't dismiss what the COVID-19 has done to that universe as well. I just went to see a doc the other day, and their office was closed for 2 months. So certainly even that universe has been impacted. And then it gives the next breakdown, etc. So you get the idea. I'm going to show you the same chart feature when I do another search here, and it will make some interesting comparisons to certainly these size ranges as it relates to all businesses across your community, and then as it relates to a single type of business. This is all printable or can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. And then if you notice, it gives some of those larger employers in the area, and then a complete report based on size range below that. I can always get back to my results. So I'll go back to that list. Now I'm going to move away from this. I'm going to do a new search. We did this from the quick search page just by putting in the city and state. Here, I want to advance to the advanced search. And by the way, additional filters goes to the same place. So I can launch that. And let me point out a few things along this left-hand column, because this is where I would begin to make my selections based on the type of information that I would ultimately like to get to. So the difference between what we saw with quick search and company name there, I could only do one company at a time. This company name option will allow me to do multiple companies. So if I wanted to see some specific companies that weren't necessarily in the same designation as it relates to SIC code, I could put those companies in one at a time, add them to my list. I can put in as many as I like, and then pull up the results for those based on whatever geography I'm looking for those businesses in. Otherwise, know that we will always give you company name. We will always give you this executive information as well, where we get that in our verification process. But let's say that for you need to see executives that maybe you need to see just or get records with just owners present. You could do that. So that could be one of those filters that you use to get to those owners. Or maybe you'd accept an owner and a manager. So if that's the case, you could add that. Just depends on how you need to frame it so it works best for you. If I'm a job seeker and I'm looking to use these tools, I might want someone from human resources, right? So I could either choose a staff from human resources or the executive in that case. But now imagine smaller companies, the owner or the manager is often wearing multiple hats, as you can imagine. So you're going to rule out a lot of those smaller companies because they're just not going to have this position. So know that we'll give you all of that information in any case. As it relates to business type, most people just simply use the keyword search because it's easiest. If you did happen to have, because you looked up that really good customer and you wrote down their SIC code, you could put that down here and then pull up all those businesses again based on whatever geography you chose and get those records. If you had a lot of SIC codes and you wanted to drop them in, you could certainly do that as well. But most of the time, not in every case, but most of the time, people are simply doing a keyword search. And I'll show you that momentarily here. The major industry group. So this is the SIC codes. In the history of the SIC codes, they started off with a 2 and a 4-digit number. That was as granular as it got. We took those same codes and we made them that much more granular by adding 6 and in some cases 9 digits so that you could get very specific with the types of businesses that you would ultimately see. Let's look at construction, for example. So it starts off with the range limit for construction is 15 through 17. When you click the plus symbol next to that, it breaks down what 15 means versus 16 and 17. If I go in further than that, by clicking that plus symbol, it goes to that 4-digit code. So if I were interested in this particular type of business, I can either click on it, or if I wanted to get more specific, you can see I've got another plus symbol. It breaks it out to the 6-digit code so that you can get very specific with the types of companies that you're ultimately going to get records for. So know that you can use this tool as well. You wouldn't use the keyword search and this probably in the same search, but know that that's available. Geography kind of speaks for itself. I'll certainly give you a demonstration of how you might use this map-based search tool. This is a great tool. Phone number speaks for itself. You know, maybe you only wanted to see businesses that have an 800 toll-free number. You could certainly do that. That could be one of your filters. Just depends on what's important to you. Number of employees. So when we make our verification phone calls, that's one of the questions we always ask. So we're capturing the name of that business, their physical address. We're asking who that owner or manager is of that location. And we ask how many employees they have. About 72% of the businesses will give us an exact number of employees. You know, we've got 5 or we've got 13. Those that don't, they give us, we don't, obviously at that point in time, since we didn't get anything from them, we look at their peers based on the type of business they're in and where they're in business at, and then we apply a range. So that would be something along one of these ranges. So if I wanted to use this as a filter for myself, because I only want to look at businesses that employ a certain number of employees, I could add that and then get those particular 2 ranges. Or if I didn't want those, but I wanted to create my own outside of what's here, I could show more options. If I wanted the location for corporate only, I could do that. Or if I wanted the location only, I could select that and then say, okay, I want to see businesses that employ 3 up to 11 employees, whatever my range needs to be. Then I'll filter it based on that. So know that that tool's available. And conversely, as it relates to sales volume, we learned a long time ago, you don't ask a business how much they're making and not have that phone call suddenly go south. So we actually have a staff that they put together an algorithm that supports that sales volume. And they use information like type of business they're in, where they're physically in business at, because there are different expenses doing business in different places across the country. Everything from, as you can imagine, rent to utilities, etc. So that's taken into consideration. Of course, the type, the number of employees, all that goes in. And then they also get information through the Bureau of Labor and Statistics in order to produce that. If it's a publicly traded company, we'll put that sales volume out there based on their 10K reports. Otherwise, it's always an algorithm. And the same thing is true for business expenditures. This is an algorithm as well that we use. So that information is available to filter by. Certainly this ownership can be a filter. If maybe you did not want to see home-based businesses in your output, you could always exclude them or only look at them. If you choose to do nothing, you will always have them in your output. We'll always provide this financial information where that's available as it relates to those publicly traded companies. We do have some special selects here that you might choose to use. You know, maybe you want to see businesses that have a web address or those that are without. could certainly use that as a filter. I like to look at, if especially you're looking at newer businesses in your community that we have gotten verified. Typically, we can verify businesses within 90 days, but now just because somebody files doesn't mean that they're automatically going to show up in the database. We've made those contacts and they're not ready to launch their business. So we don't put a business out there if it's not ready to go. So if you were looking for newer businesses in your community, I wouldn't use the year established. I'd use years in the database. And you could just say, hey, show me all the businesses in my city or in my county that have opened in the last year. And then you would get that entire list. So it just depends on what you need to be able to do as it relates to your business plan. So I also like to mention professionals, all or one. So this is referring to those doctors, those dentists, those attorneys, those CPAs. If you're perhaps considering putting together a mailing program and you want to mail something to these doctors or to these attorneys' offices, but you don't want to necessarily reach out to every attorney in the office, but would prefer just a primary, you could switch this from all, which it automatically defaults to one, and that would reduce the number of records that you would ultimately produce. And that way you're kind of controlling that budget or that spend you might have for that marketing campaign. So know that you can use that. And I did mention earlier that you can omit anything, including previously saved searches, by the way, but perhaps you did not want those ATMs to show up in your search. If that were the case, you can simply come up here and type in ATMs and search for it. Here's the SIC code for all ATMs. Then you just click on it. It adds it to the selected field down here. And then when you drive in your other results, the ATMs are always going to be absent at that point. So know that you can do anything as it relates to omitting. So let me do this. I'm just going to do a simple search. I'm going to do a keyword. I'll open that up, and then we'll do it across your county. We're going to make it very simple, just 2 factors, keyword and your county. So the keyword I'll use, and I'll use restaurants simply because I want the numbers, and you all have plenty of restaurants around your community. So I'm going to search for that, and there's my all-inclusive SIC code for all restaurants. So I'll click on that. It adds it to the selected field. Now I could come back up here and add other types of businesses. If there were other businesses that I wanted to include in my search, I could certainly do so. But in this case, I'm just going to do restaurants. And of course, as we know, I have to select first the state. And if by chance you should ever see the state of confusion along here in this listing, don't click on it. Stay away from that particular spot. So we'll go Tulsa, and there it is. I'll select it. Now I could be, I know that Tulsa, I'm trying to remember my geography. I think you're close to Arkansas. So if you wanted to, maybe there were a county over in Arkansas that you also wanted to look at, you could just change this up to Arkansas and then type in that filter choice for that, and you get both counties. Just depend. I could even, I'm looking at all of Tulsa County, but I could even say, hey, you know what? I also want to see restaurants down in Oklahoma City, or down in Stillwater, or wherever. So I could be adding a city state selection here if I needed to as well. But in this case, I'm going to stick with just your county and looking at all restaurants. And by the way, let me show you this real quick. As you'll note, if you scroll down here, we'll take you into certain types of restaurants. So notice we went from a 6-digit code into a 7. So if you wanted French restaurants or German restaurants and you get the idea, you can get very specific. Or if you wanted to see restaurants, by name, you can scroll down a little further and there's your restaurants by name. So we can get, it can be very granular so that you can get to just those types of restaurants that are important to you. In this case, I'm going to look at all across your county and I'm going to update my count. This is my total number of verified businesses right now. It says that I'm in the verifieds. I do have unverifieds, and there might be some gold in there. Those are businesses that when we tried to get them verified, we could not reach anybody. Could be a matter of a new phone number, and we haven't got that new phone number. Could be on the other side that they've gone out of business and we haven't found anything about that. So if we're not able to get them verified, and we do these verification phone calls once a year, let's say that it's now approaching August and I have a restaurant in Tulsa that I need to get verified, we'll start doing that in August, but we never get all of them on the first try. As you can imagine, we have to retry to get them verified. We'll do that a total of 6 times throughout August to August. And if we can't reach them, now that's gone into year 2, we'll try again for another 6 attempts. And if at that point in time we cannot reach them, we cannot find anything online about they've gone out of business, then we'll at that point in time move them from verified status into unverified. Of course, close speaks for itself. So here's my total number of restaurants across your county. 1,546. Notice I'm searching all SIC codes right now. Watch when I change it to search only primary. So that's that really good customer that I've got, their primary line of business or SIC code. It drops it now down to 1,298. So it got rid of businesses like bowling alleys that have a little restaurant in them, or a convenience store that has a little restaurant in it, or a movie theater that offers a dining experience. We got rid of all of those because their primary line of business isn't that of a restaurant. It's bowling or entertainment. So certainly another way to filter out what you potentially didn't want to see. I'm going to view my results. And we did that chart feature, so I'll go right back to that. Now we know we're not going to get the top 7 SIC codes because we're only looking at one specific SIC code. So in this case, what it will do is it'll give me the top 7 cities across the county. So Tulsa, no surprise there, comes in with 957, followed by Broken Arrow, etc. Now, if I want to, watch what happens with that employment size factor. We know what the ranges were when we looked at all the businesses within your city. Let's see if that range description remains the same, where it goes from 1 to 4 to 5 to 9, etc. So actually, 5 to 9 is the top vote getter at 42%, followed by 20 to 49, 10 to 19. You don't see 1 to 4 until you get down here to 4th place at 11%. So it's certainly a great way to look at, and believe me, I've done lots of these presentations with lenders present. Lenders, those loan officers, love to see these kinds of breakdowns, especially if the product or service that I'm selling has to do something with employees. They like being able to see that breakdown. Or maybe the real interest getter is the sales number. So I can switch it up to sales. So you can see how this might be beneficial as it relates to that. So know that you can do that, again, printable, or can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. And then I get that full report down below. So all of that is available. I can always get back to my results. So here are my 1,298 results. Now through the library's subscription, you can download this information, and it will note right down here at the bottom how many downloads you can do. So it's really per event. So if I wanted, let's say I wanted 1,000 of these 298 records, I can certainly do that, and I could do that as simple as selecting this box next to company name. It's going to grab all 25 records on this first page, and then I just go to this toggle, and I advance to my page 2. You get the idea. My page 3, and I can do that 10 for 10 pages. Don't go to page 11, because then you'll get an error code and you'll be locked out for half an hour. But once I've reached that page 10, I can do my download, and it's as simple as coming up here and selecting that. If you're going to make mailing labels, this is definitely where you want to leave it. Comma Delimited is friendly with label making software. It's still in a form of Excel, so I tell folks just leave it as is. If you need primarily this information, and we will provide you with the name of that owner or manager, the number of employees, the sales volume, the primary line of business, we'll provide you with a lot of information. If it's that simple, you can simply select download, and then it will start to produce that Excel document. I would say to you, open up your own version of Excel, because my pages are all static. I can't keep adding more records to this particular Excel document. So with that said, if you simply come up here in between cell 1 and A and click and copy all of that information, drop it on your own, you would minimize yours. Then you'd simply come up here and close mine. It's going to leave you right here. Then you simply select the word back. And at that point in time, you've got to get rid of all these check marks. Otherwise, it'll just produce the same records over and over. So easiest way to do that is revise search. It doesn't forget how you built your search. Then you view your records or your results again. It leaves you on page 1. It's gotten rid of all those check marks. Then you just come to this page box and type in 11 and enter, and you're ready to go with more downloads. So it can be that simple, and you can get quite adept at doing that. So know that that is certainly available. I also want to show you, and I think I saw that on page 2 here. Yes, I did. So you all have plenty of Arby's like they do here in Omaha. I'll use this example. Notice I've got company name, of course, that executive information where we could get it, that address information, phone, and then corporate tree. If you need access or want to understand the company's hierarchy, that's a great tool to use. You could switch it up. If you wanted to see the title for all these people listed, you could switch it up to title, for example. But I'm going to leave it on corporate tree. And know that you can certainly select the up arrow, which would take me to the subsidiary that's responsible for all of the Arby's. If there were no subsidiary, then it would take me to the ultimate parent. Whereas this shows me their entire organizational chart. Some great data here. So let me click on that. It'll launch a new page. Look at there. Arby's is actually owned by this private equity firm out of Atlanta, Georgia. There is a legend that runs across the top here. So I can quickly identify this PV stands for a private company. If in fact there is a subsidiary of a foreign parent, we won't go beyond the subsidiary. We stop at the US border. We don't go overseas. I've got, as notes here, 38 total subsidiaries and over 24,000 branches. If I would like to understand the other businesses that are part of Rourke, I could simply either scroll down or I can close this subsidiary up by clicking on that minus sign, and then it opens up all the subsidiaries that are under this umbrella. So if you've never seen this type of structure, it's dynamic. It's certainly very valuable, because if I want to work with Arby's and I find out, oh, by the way, they also have this little company called Hardee's under them, or Cinnabon, one of my favorites. We'll call that a restaurant. I know it's not nutritious, but we'll call that a restaurant. So if I need to know about the structure and understand if there's more opportunities, bingo, I've got it right here. Jimmy John's, freaky fast. So you can see how easy it is to get to this information. And if I wanted this sonic information, I can click on that plus symbol and get to those branches as well. So there are all the sonics. So it's real easy to navigate, and there's just a wealth of data here. So with that, I'm going to go back, and I want to open up the Arby's record, because this will exemplify how all records are set up. So just click on the name, it opens the record. It will always give you the location information first, which also contains that phone number information, web address, the social links they use, etc. So I've got that. I've got those job listings. I even can get to that corporate information from inside the record, followed by the industry profile. So there's that primary SIC code. And if this were that really good customer that I was referring to earlier, just write the number down and forget the dash, because you'll put in all 6 numbers. So I've got that information, followed by the business profile, followed by a Google Map listing, which obviously you could print off if need be, followed by the business demographics. So we just updated them in June. And in doing so, they shared with us that they have 15 employees at this location. Now, what we don't do is try and identify how many are full-time versus part-time. We just want that total number, because that total number goes into the making of this. Now, that said, this is, in fact, a private company, as it notes here. But some of these larger companies will self-report that data. I don't think they do, though. So you've got that last updated on, how long that we've had them in our database, etc. That management directory, company news. We get this through Bing, and it's updated as this new stuff comes in. So what's today? Today is the 28th or 9th. So this was a couple of days ago. And you'll notice it is quite deep here. In fact, I can even get into more articles if I wanted to. So know that that's available to you. Could be some real terrific information available for you in there. No stock data because they're not publicly traded. Then I've got those business expenditures. Again, this is that modeled information, followed by some historical data, and then historical records. So we do capture and include this information that is actually being obtained through our US historical business module. So if I wanted to, for example, see this Arby's in 2011, and by the way, we do track name changes, we track address changes, all of that stuff. I can launch that. It'll open up that 2011 record. It gives me this slide, and notice it goes back to 1998 in this example, because that's how long we've had a record for them. There are others that will go back to 97, and that's as far back as the historical will go. But you can see I'm in the U.S. Historical Businesses record. So know that that is available. I can always get back. I also capture UCC filings, so if they put up, nope, they haven't had any loans where they've had to put up collateral. I have the nearby businesses because I have the latitude and longitude embedded in the background, so I know who's next to whom. And then I've got a list of competitors. So every record is going to be set up just like this. Really no difference, other than it would not have competitors if this were a nonprofit or a church. We don't consider competitors in that universe. Otherwise, every record is going to look just like this. I'm going to stop for a moment. Are there any questions that you might have, either about how I got here, or certainly any of the information contained in the record or in that chart report that I showed you? Plus, I can get a quick drink of water. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions coming in. Certainly feel free to do so if you have any. I'm going to select my back option here. I do want to show you some other tools, such as our heat map. This is a great tool. Again, lenders love this because it brings clarity. It's one thing to say that I've got 1,200 plus records across my community, but where are they? This tells the where are they story. So where you see those red areas, there are lots of restaurants in those red areas. Where it's more yellow, certainly fewer there, and green, even less. No color, no restaurant. Then it gives you the top 50 results as well. So I have that available. I'm only looking at location. I could do it by sales volume or number of employees. And again, this is printable or can be made part of a PowerPoint presentation. Notice, and it does state that if you change the zoom level on this map and it's fewer than 300 records, this is what you'll see. Let me show you this. You can drill in, and it might take you a few selections of that drill in. And I think it's going to be one more. Okay, so I was not correct. It's one more. It will then break out by location and pinpoint all those locations. So if there's a plus symbol, it simply means in this case there are two results at that location. And I can get to both of those. So it just depends on what I need to do. There is this legend that is now on the left-hand side. And if I wanted to see where Chimmy's Mexican food was at, I could select it and it would take me to that location. So it just depends on what I need to be able to do. Know that that is available. And again, those top 50. So all of these tools are available in virtually all the modules, not so in the jobs and internships. The heat maps and the charts aren't available in there, and they're not available in the healthcare. Let me do this. I'm going to revise this search a bit, and I'm going to show you another tool that I can only present to you by beginning out here. So I'm going to select, I'm going to get rid of the county selection altogether. And I'm going to add some additional criteria. So I'm going to say, only show me restaurants with 5 to 9 and 10 to 19 employees. And show me them with a web address. And now what I'm going to do is, instead of using the city or the county, I'm going to select the map option, and you want to deploy the map last when you're using it. You can open the map up, and then it's a matter of, let's do this. I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to get one of your zip codes. And use that instead. I could be putting in this zoom to field an actual physical address. I could be putting in a county, state, a city, state. I'm going to just use the zip code, and I'll use this 74033 option and go. I always have to tell it where to go. Whoa. Was I not in Tulsa or what? Oh, there I am. I'm south of Tulsa. Okay. Well, I'm not going to use that zip code anymore. So I want to show the city, and I have, as it notes here, the selected area. I can draw my own shape, use a true radius, do a boundary, some specific boundaries, and even create a drive route. So I'll draw a shape first. This is, if you remember that game Etch-a-Sketch, it's kind of like that. So let's say that for my business needs, I just want to see this area. I'll just follow this roadway. I don't have to follow a roadway, but in this case, I want to show off my great artistic ability and how well I follow a line. Not. So you get the idea. And I'll come down here, I'll double click to finish it. So it's a single click to begin, a single click to change direction, and a double click to finish it. Then it will calculate how many businesses match my criteria that are in that shape. So if that's all I needed, bingo, I'm done. And then I can say done and then view my results. And if you'll notice, I'm already ready to show you those results. But I'm not quite done with my examples. So we'll get rid of this one. We're going to delete this guy. And I want to show you the true radius option. Now with this one, it's a little different. You simply click, hold, and drag away in any direction. And it will go out the maximum. And of course, that would depend on the view that I'm looking at. If I wanted to give myself a closer view, I could use that plus symbol or minus to back it away even further. So it will go out a total of 150 miles if my map view is such. Let's do a radius, and I'll select, and I'll just go to the city of the center, center of the city, city of the center. Click, hold, and just drag up. Oh, you're being fickle with me. Maybe I didn't get that selected. I didn't. So click, hold, and drag. And you can see that it's already at 1.14 miles. So if I wanted to go out, let's say I'm going to go out, I'll go out 8 miles. So there's my close to 8 miles. And there are 229 results in there. So I could say done here and then get those 229. Maybe there's a couple of spots I don't want to include that are in this particular area. I could draw a shape again. Maybe I want to leave out this Turnley area. So I'm going to click, I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go up here, and double click here. Do I have some results? I have 4 results in there. So I can double click in that new shape, and I can say exclude that area, say okay, and those 4 will be deducted from this 229, and then I can produce just those results. So it all depends on what you would need or want to do for your search. But know that you can do any of that type of unique crafting of your defined area. So I'll delete that. I also have, and I better get back in here a little closer. Of course, I don't know how big your zip codes might be. We know that that one way down there. Maybe I better back out one time. I'm going to select the boundary selection now, and I'm going to overlay zip codes. It always starts with the boundary of the state, but I'm going to overlay your zip codes. Oh, you do have some pretty good sized zip codes there. So there's the area's zip codes based on the map. And then what I can do is I can select any zip code that's in here and get the results based on what's available. So if I wanted this 014, I can click in there, and then it will identify how many businesses. There are 9 results of restaurants that employ the number of employees and have web addresses available. And if I want to click several more, and they don't have to be next to each other, they can be anywhere on the map. If I wanted to do some checking, I can do so and get a breakdown of all those. So down here is the zip code that has the most restaurants that have web addresses and the right number of employees. If that's all I need, I can say done and then view my results. But I'm not quite done. I will get rid of these guys though. And I'm going to return to my tools. So that brings me back here. And I'm going to show you this drive route. And let's do this. We'll say Tulsa. Now I could be putting in as it notes here, an address in the city and state, or an address along with city, state, and zip, or just the address with zip code. So it just depends. I'm going to do it with just Tulsa. And let's go to, and if it didn't like this information for any reason, this would be red instead of green. And I'm going to go to Stillwater. I can't remember how far that is away from you. And so I've got Tulsa to Stillwater. I'm still looking at those restaurants with those same number of employees that have web addresses. Now I'm going to create my buffer distance. So I can go out a maximum of 15 miles. I helped a gentleman who was intending on cold calling businesses, and this was up in Wisconsin, and he was just going to go right down the interstate, and he was calling on businesses that manufacture or remanufacture skid pallets. So he knew that they'd be within 3 miles of the interstate. So that would be a total of 6 miles, 3 miles north, 3 miles south. So I'll say 0.5, so a half a mile north and a half a mile south or east-west. And I'm going to create my route. Oh, it's a straight shot. I did not realize it. I thought Stillwater was further south. So it's a straight shot over on, looks like, I'm not certain what that highway is, 51 it looks like. So there are a total of 54 restaurants along this route from Tulsa to Stillwater. If that's what I need, I can say done, view my results. And the beautiful part of this is I can then put this information back on the map. And that's exactly what this gentleman was going to do. Now, he only had 18 results, but he was traveling out, I want to say it was about 125 miles. So it always starts off with this view. You do have to kind of center your map, and then you can start to drill in. And it might take about 6 clicks on that plus symbol to get all the way in, but you can see what's happening. It's already beginning to break those out. You've got that legend on the far side. I'm going to need to reposition the map here a little bit to keep it centered. And then I can drill in even further. And this gentleman wanted this because he was going to have this pulled up on his computer, and he was just going to go from one location to the next, trying to sell his ideas to these, in this case, manufacturers. So I got it a little big, but you can see how it lays it out. So if I wanted to, I could certainly, maybe I'm starting here in Tulsa, I could even drill this in further so these break out even more. See how that's working. And then I could come right up into this cluster and get this information. So it just depends on how I want to break this out or begin this. But know that you can certainly do that with that particular type of search. And I can always get back to my list, and maybe I'm just going to save and or print off this information, or perhaps even download it. Just depends on what I want to do. There's my print option and certainly my save. So all of these tools that I'm showing you are available in most of the modules. Obviously, the criteria that you're going to use to search by is a little different, but these tools are all the same. I'm going to go back to my original query. Let me double check something. That is it. So any question? Oh, I missed it. How did you get here? I'm sorry, that's okay. So let me show you. I'm going to view my results. I wonder if I can cheat and go back. I bet you I can. Let me. So I got here by selecting that option to draw my own shape. So that was the map-based search tool. Let me do that. I'll open that here. I'm going to remove it real quick and open it again. That way it clears everything. You select this map-based search tool. Open that up and do that last. I put all my filters in and then open this up. It's not quite as toggle friendly. And then it's just a matter of putting in your zoom to field whatever, zip code or whatever city, state, or whatever address. Sometimes businesses will put their own business address, city, state in here and start from that point. And they can use that radius, or they can draw a shape in that particular area, or even overlay the boundaries that were important to them. So once you've put in whatever identifying information, I'll just use my zip code. So we'll go to Omaha real quick here. Next time you're in Omaha, if you enjoy a world-class zoo, there's the Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo and Aquarium. It is phenomenal. So once I'm in here, I can either draw my own shape, and it doesn't have to be a defined, it can be whatever it makes sense to me. And then I can get that output. And if that's all I need, I simply say done and then view my results. If I want a radius, again, click, drag, and hold it. And you go out however far you want to go, and then stop, and it will calculate what you have available. Or the predetermined boundaries with like zip codes, for example. So again, just depends on what you might need. And then of course, I just did the drive route. So I hope that helps you. I'll say done there. And I'm back here on my advanced search. Any questions regarding the use of the business database or any of those tools that I showed you? Because I do want to show you some of the other modules. We just looked at the business module, so I'll show you the new business data. Let's do this just for the heck of it. I mentioned I'm going to get rid of the keyword search and the map-based search tool, the number of employees, and I'll get rid of that as well. I mentioned to you that if you wanted to see new businesses in your community, you could select that. And in this case, you can just put in Tulsa and hit go. You don't have to say Tulsa, Oklahoma, because it'll give you that. And then you can simply come down here and say years in the database 1. So these are businesses that we've just verified technically in the last 9 months, because I did mention that it was about 3 months to get this turnaround done. So there are a total of 909 businesses that are new to your community. Now, how many of them are home-based businesses? Let's see that. 14 of them are home-based businesses. So it's really neat the way you can craft your search based on what kinds of information you may need. So know that you can do, really, the only limitation might be your imagination. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to use the Reference USA here to get to my home page. I'm on the home page as it notes here. I'll open up the US New Business module. I want to show you what the records look like in here. I'm going to forego the quick search and go right over to advanced search. And instead of identifying a specific type of business, I just want to know about all businesses. So I'll select your city, state again, and put in my Tulsa and go. There's that. Now I'll also include business type, and I could include business filings, the date ranges. So it just depends on what's important to you. So I'll say date range. First, I'll do date range. Notice it always defaults to the last 6 months. It could be as recent as last week, and it does note within the last 2 years, although that's just changed. So it really only now goes out to 1 year. So I'll say 1 year in Tulsa, show me all businesses that have been filed for. Again, that doesn't mean that they are actually going to become businesses. I'll update my count. So 5,014 filings have been done. Now I have a dear friend. He has 3 different filings. He's not opened up any of those businesses, but he has registered the information about the name and the type of business, but he's not open to one of them. He keeps saying that it's something he's going to do in retirement. So note I can do that date range. I could do business type by location. So do I want corporate locations or do I want those home-based businesses? So of this 5,014, how many of them might have been home-based businesses? Let me see that. So 2,184. Let's do this. We'll say doing business as 21. And this is what those records are going to look like. I'll just open up this first one. So I've got the location information as we know it right now, because we might find some new information when we actually get this verified, which will also include the type of business they're in. And so this is all that we have is the doing business, and the work site is a home business. So that's the extent, other than deploying the map, of course. But those are the only 3 sections that we would have as it relates to new business filings, because we simply haven't verified them yet. Can always get back to my list and and apply other filters, or maybe I want to download this information, maybe I want to chart it, maybe I want to find out, let's get rid of this check mark, maybe I want to find out about the types of businesses. Oh, and I don't have enough records. I'm at 21, I need 50. Let's cheat and go back. I'm going to revise this. I know I'll get that many. I'm going to remove this one. So now I'm good. I've got 377. And now I'm going to chart this information. So of these filings, 29 of them have been new restaurants, marijuana dispensaries, general merchandise and retail, real estate, etc. So you get the sense of how that breaks it out. Notice I don't have anything in terms of sales volume or number of employees, simply because we haven't verified that information. It's one thing for them to say, we've got 6 employees, but we want to get that verified with them in that phone call. So know that that's available if you could use new business information. Any questions? Nope, none there. I'm going to select again that home key, and I want to show you the U.S. new movers, new homeowners. So if your business requires you to certainly attract new customers, this would be a great source by which to do so. Again, I've got that quick search option. I'm going to go right to advanced search. And I'm going to select, again, your city and state. And go. And what I want to do is move distance and time frame for right now. So I'll overlay those 2 factors. Notice it always defaults to either the last week or within the last year. Let's do the last 3 months. So how many people have moved from, let's say, at least 50 miles away? So they don't know anything about your business or the service that you might offer. Let's say at least 50 miles. You can change that up if you'd like to. And we'll say 2,000 miles. How many people have we got that have moved into Tulsa in this mileage range in this time frame? 1,053. Now I could break this out with some more filters here. If I wanted type of home, I could say, maybe I sell real estate, so I'd love to know about these renters. Bingo. How many of this 1,053 are renters? So I've got 372 opportunities. Maybe I want to overlay some estimated income. Maybe I want to identify, so show me these people that are probably, let's say, at least in these ranges. So how many of this 372 are in those ranges? 82. If I wanted to, and I didn't want to do the entire city, I could just be putting in a few zip codes, or I could use a true radius around my office location. I could do certainly that. It just depends on how I want to filter that. This is what those records are going to look like. And the first thing it's always going to tell you in red lettering here, these phone numbers, of which there aren't probably any. When I filled out my change of address, I didn't include a phone number. So they may be on the do not call list. So if there were phone numbers, and you'll see some of our other products do have phone numbers in some cases, they may be on the do not call list. You should run this list up against the do not call registry. You can do that through us. There is a fee for that. You can do it through the registry. They do a certain number for free, and then after that there's a fee. So in any case, you're going to be responsible for the compliance as it relates to the use of any phone numbers. But here's what this record's going to look like. Obviously, I've got that physical address information here. They moved from 645 miles away to come into Tulsa to this address where they're a renter. And they fall into this estimated income range and age range. So I could use age, even age as a factor if I wanted to, an age range. I could certainly use that. So that's how extensive, other than by, loading the map, that's the extent of the information that you're going to get about that person. I've shown this tool to certainly those folks that sell real estate, to guys that sell or girls that sell insurance to renters. They love this information. Conversely, if we were looking at homes, contractors love that information. Certainly the local pizza parlor down the street would love that information. So it just depends on your business type and how you might utilize finding new customers. So again, you can download this, you can certainly save that search and come back to it at any point in time. Print this off if you'd like to know that that's available. Let me also, I don't see any questions here. Let me also, gosh, time is just evaporating. I'm going to go back to my home key. I do want to show you our consumer lifestyles. So this is information that we're getting from subscriptions that people have, surveys that people have completed, warranty cards that people have sent in, magazine sales that people have done, etc. Oh, how can we narrow the age to above 63? And I'm assuming that you're referring to the new movers, new homeowners. I don't think it's going to give you anything. I'm going to go right over here to age and see if it gives you, well, it does give you 65 plus. So it's 60 to 64 or 65 plus. So you could certainly use that as a filter as it relates to the new movers, new homeowners. Great question. I'm going to go back here and on the consumer lifestyle. So we're getting this information through all of those various sources. I was not in this database when I first moved back into Omaha. I was paying rent to a friend of mine. I was leasing his townhome and I was paying him one amount for everything. At that time, I didn't have a computer, so I wasn't online. I didn't have cable. I didn't have any of that stuff when I first moved there. Although I did have a dog that was a best friend, and he became sick. I took him to the vet and found out that it was the dog food formula that I was feeding him. They changed something with that product. And the vet suggested I go to a PetSmart or a Petco to find an all meat and all poultry and all fish product of some sort and feed him that. He would be fine, he suggested to me, which he was. So I ended up going to Petco and eventually signed up for a PALS membership. I then showed up in the database as a dog lover. So let's go to advanced search. And let's say that I'm looking across your community for all dog lovers. Now, we're not getting any information through your local humane society or that licensing group that might handle dog tags. Only through memberships, maybe magazines, maybe somebody's getting Dog Fancy sent to them. So I'll select Tulsa, and instead of all per household, I only want one record for one address. And I'm going to come down here to the lifestyles category. And here, as I go down my list, I'm going to find pets. So there's my pets. I can click this plus symbol and it'll break it out even more. I'm going to select dogs. Not that there's anything wrong with cats or horses or gerbils, but I'm just going to select dogs. Maybe I've got a dog business. Maybe I have a boutique and I make a lot of healthy kinds of treats for dogs. I suppose I do the same thing for cats too, but we're just going to focus on dog lovers now. So across the community, one per household, I have a total of 8,521. Now notice it does give you this information up here under lifestyles that says there's a scoring process of 0 through 9. We will only show you records of people who score at least a 6 to a 9. So there are probably many more dog lovers than that, but maybe they get their dog food at a grocery store. We're not going to know about that. So it's certainly highly likely that there are many more dog lovers across the community, but these are the ones we're confident of. I can view those results. Notice I have that same information about the Do Not Call Registry. So I must, if I'm going to be planning to do any kind of phone call solicitation, I must get this list run through the Do Not Call Registry in order to be able to legally do that. Otherwise, I'm susceptible to whatever fines the Fed, state, or local laws may deem appropriate. This is what my records are going to look like. So let's look at Linda here. I've got this address information. Everything we've seen about Linda is she's single. Now we're not call verifying Linda to ask that question. Been in this house for about 4 years here in this particular county. There's some of that estimated household income and home value. So you can see we're piggybacking off of what the neighborhood information looks like with the Census Bureau. And then we have the lifestyle interests. Now, the only thing we asked about were dogs. And coming in the near future, you will be able to tell the system, hey, I want people who are into gardening and dog lovers, but that's not quite ready yet. So right now, if I do a search for gardening, let's say, Linda may not show up because she doesn't score in that 6 to 9 area. She might be a 5 or below. So if that's the case, her record may not come up. Now, once the ability is made available to search both gardening and dogs, if Linda scores a 6 through a 9 in both of these categories, her record will come up. That's not quite ready for prime time yet. So this is how my record's going to look. And I'm at the bottom of my record. I can't go any further down. So notice you don't see anything referencing age other than years in the home. There's no average age, none of that available in here. I'm going to go back to my list because I do want to show you what happens if you select this information. I do have this next category called Consumer Snapshot. And that's all they give you at that point is a snapshot. It's not the entire record. So if I say, you know what, give me marital status and give me gender and give me income. I'll select those. Not estimated income, but income. I better get rid of these dog lovers simply because it's going to short me so much probably. I'm going to say single, female, and by the way, this is not a dating service. And these income ranges, let's say. I have a total now across, I'd like the city, across the city of, 85, still 8,500. We're stuck on the 8,500. Oh, I got to do this one per household. Oops, that might change it. Nope, still there. So I'm suspicious. I believe that's the exact same number that we saw with dog lovers. I think my system has retained this number. So if you're ever in doubt, easiest way is to clear it just by going back to quick search and then advanced search again, starting all over. And I'll just do that city again. I'll change that to 1. I'll do Tulsa, go Oklahoma. I'll leave those lifestyle selections out of there. I'll grab, no, I was going to grab it down here. I'm going to say marital status, gender, and where was that? Income. And I'll select single, female. And again, this is not a dating service. I'm going to update my count. Oh, it is still there. I guess I'm not crazy. And I'm going to view my results. And Linda fell into that. Isn't that interesting? Something is amiss. It should not have given me those records. Did something change here? Remember I mentioned the fact about, so they've changed the consumer snapshot section. So we used to have, for example, age. They got rid of age. They got rid of presence of children. So now we actually show the records. Before, when those other categories were in there, we ex-nayed this and only gave you the ability to see that on a chart matrix or graph. So now it's showing records. That's interesting because I have not seen any updates with that. I'm going to have to do some inquiries here at the office. So it did produce those records in that particular case, and they've taken out those other factors. So maybe they're no longer going to present the chart matrix or graph option. So you could, in fact, use this information, of course, once you've run it through the do not call list, if you plan on making phone calls to these people. Otherwise, it is the same. I mean, we've seen Linda's record. Well, look at Andrea here. Obviously, you've got that same information, been in this house for about 19 years. There's an estimated home income and value. And she is not doing much of anything. And I didn't have any categories selected, because if I had, you can clearly see she'd have been not included in my list, because we don't have any insight as relates to her lifestyle interests. So she would always be left out of the search simply because of that. I don't see any questions, but let me ask before I, gosh darn it, our time has run out or almost run out. Any questions that you might have? And I am not seeing anything that's come across. Let me provide you with yes, Rick, you're a mind reader. Let me provide you with my contact information. So it's bill.carlson, CARLSON, at infogroup.com. bill.carlson at infogroup.com. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or would like some additional insight, maybe on one of the other modules. We could certainly do that. We have some additional programs coming up that are going to focus on certain modules here. So we'll certainly spend more time on those. And hopefully you can attend any or all of those if it would make sense for you. And certainly be sure to share the fact that you attended this today with friends or colleagues, and let them know that if that would be something that they would like to attend, you could point them in the right direction, even if they don't have a Tulsa City County library card yet, they could always go online and get one and then have access to the same great information that you all do. With that, Martha, any final comments?
Bill, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
I wish we were in your large auditorium with all the folks present.
Yes, wouldn't that be great? Well,
One
you
day
did,
we'll get back there.
yes. Marvelous. I think that presentation is probably worth about $1 million. So,
Well,
and
I'm going to have to talk to somebody at the office.
we've got them recorded. We have all these sessions recorded, and the schedule is on the library's Facebook page. So, and be sure to let us know here at the library if you have any questions going forward. You're welcome to make an appointment with us for a virtual interaction on one-on-one basis if you want us to, our staff, to help you learn more about how to use any of these databases. I think that's it.
Thank you all. Martha, as usual, thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you. Thank you so much.
You bet. Goodbye.
Bye.